If the master got sick, the house Negro would say, "What's the matter, boss? We sick? We sick." He identified himself with his master.
Cemetery, okay? They say that Adolf Hitler was born where? In Branu Inn.
Let's run away.
That's where that furnace was with all the things on the bottom. And look on the back, Betty.
That house Negro would look at you and say, "Man, you crazy." What you mean,
I can't remember where the third one was, but look at this, Daddy. What do you think happened here? Nothing other.
Where can I wear better clothes?
Look at all them gun hole wounds in there.
Where can I eat better
that ain't
food
rotten
than
in
this?
marks.
That was that house Negro. In those days, he was called a house nigger. I mean, this is what you say. I ain't left nothing in Africa. That's what you say. Why you left your mind in Africa.
This is a pit. And all the place names I be telling you about, Coontown, Oregon Township, Needmo School, all that shit they did. Every single time they change towns, they talk about a post office open.
On that same plantation, there was
here's all Adolf. And then this black woman, Mary, that's all about that Booker movie, Mary Jane. She's over there. I think she never made it out. But here, they don't have this Adolf on there. And look, we're at the Branham Cemetery, okay? And they say that Adolf Hitler was born where? In Branu Inn. This how it's spelled. B-R-A-N space I-N-N. Tell me that doesn't say the same thing.
Of the insides of the hog. They call them chitlins nowadays.
There's a mark in the middle of my hand that's really hurt.
They call them what they were.
Yeah, but I'm saying, look where it says Adolf Hitler was born, and that man's name right there is Adolf, and he died at 44.
From morning till night.
And they said that Adolf escaped to a town with all barbed wire fencing. Well, I saw some barbed wire fencing down there, but also Kennett, the whole thing.
He hated his master.
Is like barbed wire fencing everywhere in there.
I'ma die, Patrick died, Michael died.
He was intelligent.
Damn.
That house Negro loved his master. But that field Negro,
Baskin, Hugo.
They were in the majority.
Owen, Dula.
Adolf Caesar.
Somebody said it's Dula.
Adolf Caesar.
The house on fire, he didn't try and put it out. That field Negro prayed for a wind.
Whee!
For a breeze.
And we called my best friend Brant.
Whee!
When the master got sick, the field Negro prayed that he died.
Brano am in.
When they see this man's house on fire, you don't hear these little Negroes talking about our government is in
building
trouble.
in Porterville is I-66 AMS.
They say the government is in trouble.
In the late 1968, they had arguments about how it was being ran and shut it down, but now they didn't open the door. Why they got all these tablets here and what were they doing?
Our government.
And this
I
Eliza
even heard
man
one
right
say
here.
our
And you see this Branham
astronauts.
spelled different.
They won't even let him near the
Robert.
plant.
Look.
And our
There, we got them.
astronauts.
Look where he was died on January 15th.
Our
That's the
Navy.
day Dr. King was born.
That's a Negro that's out of his mind.
Eliza
That's
Met.
a Negro that's out of his mind.
We've also talked about the Little River Drainage District a little bit, and I was wondering if maybe you could explain how that works in terms of the taxation. And
that was formed in 1904, according to their history. And as I said, because of the Dipper Dredge, which came about right after the Panama Canal was dug around the turn of the century. And these old timers here are pretty smart. One of them has a statue down here on the river, S.P. Reynolds. Sterling Price Reynolds, the name, you know, there in the old Confederate days. And they were staunch people and good workers, and he was an engineer as such, I guess, or surveyor. Had a hand in everything. And he was on that board when they formed that.
Y'all remember on John Q when she kept saying dashboard? But it was that washboard.
Find out what the hell these people got going on.
Gotta wash
here.
their ass.
See this grave here with nothing but Roman numerals on
The
the bottom
Zine
where the
King.
book's missing out of them. I found 3
What's
of those
that?
graves so far.
Lingerie, do not rub hard. The board will do the work. Fuck the board. I got something for you border motherfuckers.
They sold bonds. They sold bonds. The federal government had no input in that at all. They did it on their own. And they did that and on up until 1928 or so, when they had the 1927 superflood. They came up with the Jadman Act. The federal government became involved. Finally, the government, Mississippi River Commission, also says it has got to be part of the responsibility of the nation. The locals cannot handle all this flood. 2/3 of the nation is drained through this valley, you see. And even it started back by the governors years ago. So anyway, they started that. They sold bonds. And they dug it. And by the end, most of it in World War I was completed about 1920. Wound up being 958 miles as of today of the Little River Drainage District Center. The philosophy was to cut off the flood flow from the Ozark Plateau, which always ravaged through southeast Missouri, along the St. Francis Basin, entering into Arkansas and flooding them also, all the way down to Helena, to Marianna, Arkansas. All this was flooded and made it, they couldn't farm cotton except on the hydronics, you know. They'd build little levees and then wash them away. So they came around in 1928, they started building and reinforcing the levee with federal help, you see, during Depression too, mostly with the mules. They had better machinery, but they wanted to use the mules because they were cheaper. They had black labor and mules. Even the history shows they discussed miles of the levee being done. There's so many blacks, I won't use the N-word, and mules per mile on the river.
See, these calculated cold crackers ain't going to tell you this, but God told me to tell you this morning. Well, this afternoon, actually it's evening. It's about to be dark. Between the Madrid and Pemiscot County, for every mile, there's 10,000 dead kings, Indians, blacks, whatever they want to call us. I know you are, but what am I? I am Dr. King.
Our government. I even heard one say, our astronauts. They won't even let him near the plane. And our astronauts. Our Navy.
Blacks, I won't use the N-word, and mules per mile on the river. They had the money. The federal money was doing that. But these Little River drainage people, then not only them, there were other drainage districts, independent ones all over this area. Like I'm on drainage district number 1 in the southern part. All these laterals feed into Arkansas, down to Big Lake. The Big Lake was formed by the earthquake in 1812 or 13. All the water goes that way. Always goes south and west. About a foot of elevation for every mile or so. So they started having these little drainage districts following the Little River, copycatted, setting their own bonds. And they got them all over the country. New Madrid, Pemiscot, and in Dunklin. So there's feeders over that way. But the floodways, which is what you see from the aerial satellites, the astronauts look at it with great amazement.
Our government. I even heard one say, our astronauts. They won't even let him near the plane. And our astronauts. Our Navy.
These ditches would come down together from the Ozark Plateau through Wardell and Gideon and all the places. But the diversion channel was created by this Little River Drainage District to divert the water from the foothills of the Ozark into the river up about where the airport is at Cape Girardeau. That was the first thing they did. Divert and then build the other ones, you see. And then the other drainage districts built their own down that way. So but they went ka-flunk. And the Depression years, the bonds, they couldn't make the payments. The times were so hard they couldn't pay any real estate taxes. Land wasn't worth very much, you see. But then after the war, they bought the bonds back into some drainage district. More dirt was turned, reportedly, than there was in the Panama Canal. So it is still viable today and very well managed and conducted. And the appropriations are becoming less and less on all St. Francis Basin or Mississippi River Tributaries project because people have got their mind on something else. The endangered species, the padded sturgeon, the fat pocketbook pearly mussel, they think more of that sometimes than they do the human species. So that money is becoming less and less, which is a cause for worry. The tax base keep these like they used to be, you see. So that's a Little River Drainage District, and well done. well managed as most all the drainage districts are. The secret is the vote is 1 vote per acre of landowner.
Of any land that's affected by the drainage?
That's right. If you're in that drainage district, divided up by the laws of the state of Missouri, judicial districts as such,
Now, why
the
would
vote
you
is
call
1
the biggest
vote
drainage
per acre.
district in the world?
If you're a big shot, you own 5,000 acres, you got 5,000 votes.
Who's this?
If you're a city lot in Carruthersville, you get 1 vote, for that lot. But when they show up, which they don't very often, they show up at the annual meeting. Many times they'll vote. They may come up with a bundle of proxy votes representing the other votes. You see, but that's the way they're handled.
What kind of things do they vote on?
They vote on the directors,
Oh, I see.
and then the tax rate is already set. That's one of their responsibilities, and most of them are at the maximum tax rate. The only way you can ever get them raised is to have a special bill, which nobody wants to go through with public representation. There's been no public formation of drainage districts in years and years and years. Nobody would know how to do it probably, but most of them have become independent drainage districts, except in Pembroke County. Except in Pembroke County. Except in Pembroke County.